Welcome back to another youth-centered podcast. I am very excited to talk to you about a program that I just became aware of in this past year, and it's a great program called Understanding Our Differences, run through the school system. So I have two ladies that are going to come in, and they'll introduce themselves to you because I'm not sure the community in general may not know them personally. We'll get a little background on that, and we'll get right to the program. So ladies, first of all, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
We'd like to start off the podcast by just introducing yourself and maybe a little bio background and how you actually got involved with this program.
Well, I'm Maureen Ryan, and I am the co-chair of NAPAC, the North Andover Parents Advisory Council, as well as the co-coordinator of Understanding Our Differences. And I am the co-coordinator with Heidi Waters, who is here with me today.
And Heidi?
My name is Heidi Waters, and I am the co-coordinator with Maureen for the Understanding Our Differences program. It began this year as a job as opposed to volunteer time for Understanding Our Differences. Yeah, go ahead.
So, Understanding Our Differences, I began with the program 4 years ago with NAPAC as a fully volunteer run program. We started with 2 programs in the Franklin School, and it was just NAPAC running the program. The second year, we ramped up to 30 programs, which is what we do today every year. And it was still fully volunteer run and had been for the first 3 years. It was this year, as Heidi said, that the school department took it over fully and employed us to run the program. And NAPAC still supports the program, but it's not fully, it's run by volunteers, but Heidi and I also work for the school department.
So I'm not late to the table on this. I did, we talked off air about that I actually got involved with you in terms of following you on social media, and immediately said, wow, this is a group that I'd love to have on our podcast. As I said earlier, I think that sometimes we need to remind our community some of the amazing things that we're doing in town. Sometimes it's very easy to criticize maybe things that are being done in the community-wise and not really fully knowing all the great things. So let's start from the beginning. Either one of you can take the ball and run with this. How did the idea actually even come to fruition?
So it's Understanding Our Differences has been around since 1978. It began in Newton. And when Dr. Price came in, she told us about it. So this is a fantastic program. I think we should run it here in town. And that's how it got started. And then it just grew, and it got to a point where we now have a Twitter account. We now have a Facebook page. We have our own email address now to contact us more easily and things like that.
I think from the school system standpoint, and obviously we work very closely with the school system, is we do a wonderful job in North Andover of accepting differences. I know in running the youth center here, we have had a lot of kids here that may be on the autistic spectrum. We've had kids that have had actually physical disabilities and other issues that we've become an all-inclusive facility, and we want to be able to assist. And one of the best things that I see here is how our kids are just very engaging with all the kids. They're very helpful. We had a Down syndrome kid who was here an awful lot, and they were protective of him. They wanted to make sure he wasn't running off and things like that. So I've been very impressed with our kids in this community about, how they've actually rallied around people with differences. And you're taking this to a whole different level by actually getting into the classroom and talking to kids at the young age. Can you talk a little bit about the presentations in themselves and, how did you choose the topics and talk a little bit about the different topics in the different presentations you've had this school year?
Sure. Well, we do presentations for all of the children in school at all 5 elementary schools in grades 3, 4, and 5. And the presentations cover deafness and hard of hearing, autism, as you mentioned, physical disabilities, intellectual disabilities, learning disabilities, and chronic medical conditions such as allergic conditions, asthma, and diabetes. And so every child gets 2 of the presentations a year through 3rd through 5th. So in the total, they end up seeing 6 presentations by the time they leave elementary school. The presentations involve usually an opening video, small group activities, which they work with volunteers to really experience what it's like to have the disability. And then a speaker comes in, usually from North Andover High School, and they have the disability themselves and talk about it openly. Sometimes we have 2 or 3 speakers come from the high school, and it takes in total about 2 to 2.5 hours to run the program.
So how did you get the, because I love the whole, we're doing a lot with mentoring here at the youth center. We're really linking up a lot of high school kids with middle school kids with elementary school kids, and I think that it's very well received by our kids because they can relate to kids that aren't a lot older than them. Sometimes just having adults come in isn't as profound on that. Right. So how did you get the high school kids? How did you identify it? Did they just hear about it and say, listen, I want to tell my story?
No, we work closely with the high school principal, Mr. Jackson, and we work with the nurse there, Lauren McDonald.
She's great.
She is fabulous in identifying students that might be willing to speak, and then helping us to coordinate their schedules so that they'll be able to come to us. And now, because there's both Heidi and I working together, we're able to provide transportation. So we ask the students to come, and if they're willing, which have we ever had anybody who said no? I don't think anybody.
Never.
All the students are
they
very
get very
willing.
excited to go. And sometimes they'll, if it's their first time, they'll start off, a little bit quiet and, just kind of the basic information. And then either Maureen or I will ask a question, or a child will raise their hand before we get a chance to ask the question. And it really just brings the speaker at ease, where, he or she interacts with the students, and it just goes from there. If one child asks a question, another child will, because they'll say, they'll see it, oh, that was easy. And like you said, having them be high schoolers as opposed to parents.
Sure.
They're very interested. And it's kind of neat because one time there was a girl who said, oh, I know her from cheerleading. She helped coach.
Sure.
I saw you play hockey, and he may have a physical disability, and he was on the ice, and it didn't stop him. So it's really cool to have that, almost like a personal connection with them as well.
Sure. Now, why did you choose, and I believe that we need to be working with our youngest kids on many issues, a lot of the social and emotional issues that we're dealing with here in the community. I think we need to deal with the youngest. Why did you choose the 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders as opposed to maybe implementing this at the middle school? What was the mindset on that?
Well, this particular curriculum, which we said was started in 1978, is geared toward children at that age. Okay. So it's made for that particular age group at this point. Because we definitely see the need for some things maybe for older children as well, but we don't have curriculum for that at this point.
Okay, so it's geared. It's definitely been set up from past experience to work with that age group.
Yeah, and the other thing is some elementary schools. There was an elementary school that has all the students with autism. So there may be a child in town who has never met someone with autism.
Sure.
So there's one elementary school that that's comfortable and understands children with autism from being in their classroom, but there's other that may not have a neighbor or may not have a relative who has autism. So they go to the middle school, and now they know how to approach them, how to be their friend.
Right.
Which is so important, especially in the middle school years.
Now, you mentioned Dr. Price, and obviously Dr. Gilligan has carried on this process with this. And you mentioned, obviously a great friend of the Youth Center, Chet Jackson, principal at the high school, is very supportive in terms of getting some of those high kids. Talk to me a little bit about the elementary school principal. Was this an easy sell to them to have this run at their schools?
Seemed to be, yeah.
It was. We started with Franklin School and Mr. Clark. We approached him, and he was immediately accepting of the original pilot program 4 years ago, and now today it's fantastic to work with every single elementary school principal. They are so welcoming and so supportive of the program. Some of them stay every single time in the room as we do this program, and obviously they've been doing it for 3 years. They've seen it before, and they still come and introduce us. They still watch the speakers.
They'll take pictures and post them.
Nice.
So every single school.
So they're all bought in.
Every single one. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
They're
and
fantastic.
We got an email recently from one of the principals thanking us for coming in and telling us how important it is and what an effect it's had, and how she saw the difference in the kids and, the change and how they took it in, which it's so rewarding for us to
Yes.
get that information.
Let me ask you something. In terms of parents, so this is geared towards the kids, so you come and do it at the school. But the parents of those kids that are in the audience, are they bought? Did you run into any roadblocks with parents being concerned about their kids being in an assembly type thing like that, or was it completely support from parents also?
We never have.
Yeah, I think we've had one or two concerned parents that would like to look at the curriculum in advance.
Sure.
Over 4 years, and we've been happy to send it. And we've never, after they've seen the curriculum or after they've looked at the materials,
Right.
felt that their child shouldn't participate. They've been happy to see it, happy to see where their child was going to learn, and never have anybody.
That's great.
We send out a letter to the parents a couple of days before we go into the school and let them know this is what we're going to be talking about with your children. This is what the topic will be. Please ask your children about it. And if you would like to come in and either check it out or volunteer with us, you're welcome to do so.
Let's talk about the reaction of the kids themselves that are in the audience. What kind of feedback have you gotten from the kids? And what would you say? I'm not huge on one-time events. I like to see the follow-through on that. And if you can talk to me a little bit about what the experience is for the kids. And then is there follow-up on the subject matter?
Well, the experience is fantastic. The first time we went in, we were terrified. We didn't know what the response would be.
Sure.
And we have children who immediately will raise their hand and self-identify, say my brother has autism, or I have a learning disability. Oftentimes they will share that freely, that they've met someone with the disability. They're completely open and honest. Their questions for the speaker are beyond what we've ever anticipated. We have brought a couple of letters from the kids. I don't know if we could share those.
Sure.
Some from third graders at Thompson, and one student, maybe, I don't know if you want to read this.
Sure.
This student wrote her college application essay on the experience of speaking.
Wow.
Yeah, so this was a senior at the high school here in town. She wrote, as the superintendent introduced me to a crowd of over 100 eager fifth graders, I was extremely nervous. I felt like I was going to mess up on what I was going to say, but I was also extremely proud of myself. When I was in fifth grade myself, never did I believe that as a junior in high school would I be the one invited to be a guest speaker to give them advice and share my wisdom. I thought my nerves would hold me back when speaking in front of all the kids, but this opportunity did just the opposite. It gave me a chance to come out and speak about my learning disability. It forced me to come out of my comfort zone, and it was empowering. I reassured them their peers will not make fun of them, even if they ask a question that might be silly. Most kids learn differently, and not all kids comprehend things the same. That is the beauty of being a unique individual, and it should be celebrated. After my experience speaking to fifth graders in my community, I am as confident as ever that I am absolutely ready for college and the new experiences that will arise during my journey.
That's great.
I have a couple from third graders at Thompson.
Sure.
From last year. This one says, thank you for teaching us about deafness, diabetes, allergies, and asthma, which are 2 programs. One thing I learned is that cats and dogs can have diabetes too. My grandpa has diabetes, and I have asthma, and my brother has asthma, and I liked learning more about what I have. I also learned about insulin. I've seen my grandma do it, but I never knew much about it. But because of you, now I know. And the other one's just cute. From Thompson. Thank you for helping us understanding our differences. Now I want to help people with disabilities. I love how you didn't stay home and watch TV all day, but you helped us understand. Thank you for your time.
Those are incredible, and that's real. I mean, both from
right.
obviously the audience, the kids in the audience, as well as some of the presenters. And one of my next questions was to ask what did the presenters get out of it? And I think what you saw on that college application from the high school kid is very impressive and says on the whole thing. What do you have coming up? I know that the school year is going by quickly. I think you'd still have a few more for the rest of the year. What are some of the upcoming presentations?
We have 2 left. They're both at the Atkinson School. One is Thursday, May 23rd, and that's where we'll be teaching about intellectual disabilities. And Tuesday, June 11th, will be physical disabilities, which we've done both at the other 4 schools already. So we just have the 2 left. So we've done actually 27 just this year because we missed one from a snow day.
Yeah.
Actually, it was the gas leak day, I think. It was around
that time.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we just have the 2 left, and then we'll be talking about next year.
Yay.
And in thinking in the future here, what you must have heard from either parents or kids or even teachers and administrators that actually listened to the presentation, what are maybe some areas that they've suggested or people have suggested that you put on the docket for next year? Are there other areas that you'd like to focus on than some of the ones you did this year?
We've had a lot of requests to start talking about anxiety and mental health, and particularly maybe if we could get into the middle school. Mm-hmm. And we are definitely talking about that and hoping to maybe pilot that soon or get it going for next year. Something on anxiety particularly would be the goal for the fall, for next year.
They had started talking about it with the 5th grade at the elementary schools with the nurse and the guidance counselors. But we would really like to make it part of the program.
Right.
Yeah, I'll tell you, we are in the front lines of teen anxiety. Our first podcast was on teen anxiety. Mm-hmm. We deal with it on a regular basis here with our high school kids, our middle school kids. And, we see a lot of the anxiety issues with a lot of the elementary school kids that come to our summer fun program during the summer. Anxiety is real. If anybody tells you it's not, then they need to get educated on it. We are, as a community, I think we're doing a great job at trying to address this, and I'm glad that you're going to put that on the agenda for next year. I work closely with Nikki Murphy in the social and emotional learning.
Who's been fantastic.
She's great.
Too, yes.
And the guidance counselors at all the schools and the administrators, and we deal with the anxiety on a daily basis here. And again, as I say to a lot of the kids that I work with, I don't know if I'd want to be 15 years old again. I don't remember dealing with a lot of this stuff then. I think times have changed. Social media, we can have a whole separate subject matter on that, but the anxiety is real. So, and that was kind of where I was going at the beginning. I get the curriculum for the for the elementary schools, but I always look in the future, and I believe that the middle school would be a good audience to eventually deal with certain issues too. And so let's talk a little bit about the future in terms of, you've talked a little bit about maybe the topics next year, but where is this program going to go in the next maybe 2 to 3 years?
Well, that's where we hope it will go. We hope that it will address more issues of anxiety and maybe mental health, and hopefully into the middle school. Right now, Understanding Our Differences as a program out of Newton does not have that curriculum. So we need to explore other programs that would provide us with the curriculum for mental health, anxiety, and older children. And we've begun that process. We have begun exploring what else we could do to expand.
I mean, that's great. And the more you can get, our high school kids and even our late middle school kids, there's some 8th graders that could be very helpful in some of the topic matters that they've had to live with and that they're dealing with on a regular basis here on that. So it sounds like, and I think we've said it a few times, but you see this program continuing with support from the school department going forward?
Very much so,
That's
yeah.
a hope, yes.
It was even a few months ago, Dr. Gilligan had said, that's still a priority. That's still, we're not going anywhere because it's just been so effective. And a lot of parents will even say, my child comes home, I say, how was your day? They say, fine. What did you do? I don't remember. But when they have a program with us, that's the first thing they talk about is what they learned that day. And it's so great to hear that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Brenna Carney, my support services coordinator, was at probably a BRC meeting or something you guys were speaking at, and she came back very pumped about the program and how we can get involved with it. And I heard loud and clear for Brenna that you're looking for volunteers. So take us through. So what would you need from the school department, but also for people in the community like myself? What do we need to do to help you? And for people that are interested in volunteering the program, how do they get involved?
Well, all you need is a Corey check. You do not need any experience. You do not need to have a child with a disability or a child even in the schools to volunteer. You just need a Corey check, and that's it. All of the training for the program is done online. It takes 10 to 20 minutes, and then you show up the day of the program. You can email us and we can send you the link to volunteer for the last 2 programs of the year. Or email us and say, I'm interested for next year, and we'll keep your name. There really is, it's very, very simple training. It's a video to watch, and that's it. And then you come in and do the activity.
So take us through that. When they come in and they volunteer that day, what do they actually do?
There'll be a small activity, a short activity to do with the children that lasts maybe 15 minutes.
Okay.
And the video trains you on how to do that activity. So it might be writing your name backwards in a mirror, for example, which is a learning disabilities activity. And you would just teach the children to do that. You would have been trained the night before on a video how to do that. We'll give you all of the materials, a script to use, and you just lead the children through the activity. Everything you need to say and do is on the script.
And you can go word for word.
Right. Literally.
You can just read the sentences one after the next, and it's very, very simple. And a lot of the volunteers have said to me, wow, this is a lot easier than I expected it to be. Or, oh, that's all? It's very basic.
Yeah, I talked to a few parents that were like, I don't know if I'm qualified enough. So what I'm hearing from you loud and clear is you don't necessarily need a master's degree in counseling. You basically just got to give us your time. And
if you want to, we had a parent come in one time and said, I don't know anything about this, but I'd really like to see what it's all about. Do you mind if I come in and just kind of watch, or just kind of, have someone lead me? And we are absolutely welcome to have family, or not just parents, to have anyone come in. We've
Sure.
reached out to the senior center if anyone would like to come in. We'd love to have Merrimack College students. And anybody is welcome to come in. They can go to any school or central office to get a Corey check, and that's really all we need.
That's great.
Right on our sign-up form, when we click into that, there's even a link to download the Corey form. You can fill it out, bring it into central office with your license.
Yeah, we use Sign Up Genius.
Yep, Sign Up Genius.
Has all the dates and what time you need to be there. It shows other volunteers, so if you'd rather have someone be there, they can check and see who's going to be there that day.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of, obviously volunteers and stuff, but in terms of the funding program and you guys involved with that, is that part of the school department's budget, or is this something you have to raise funds for?
It's part of the school department's budget. We also are supported by NAPAC. They help us out a little bit every year. So it's a little bit of both. We're not fundraising at this point. We may need to next year, but
we might kick off a fundraising by selling slush at the farmers market.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's always been a success, and so many people show up, especially at the start of it, to kind of see what's out there for the town. New members of the town will come in, so it would be great to have our name out there and have volunteers come and help us scoop too.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
And we talked a little bit off the air on the marketing. So I heard about you. I feel like I'm pretty in tune with everything that goes on in town. But my first involvement with you was watching your pretty cool Twitter posts about the actual presentation. So I saw some of your presenters. I saw the smiles on the kids' faces. So talk to us a little bit about your marketing strategy. I mean, obviously, I think this podcast will get it out. Hopefully a lot of people will listen to it. But what's your mindset in terms of marketing this program going forward?
Well, we have done several things on the North Andover CAM. So we've been out there. And then Heidi has kept our Facebook page and our Twitter page pretty active to keep us alive. We're hoping that people will follow us and watch what we're doing as we call for volunteers. Beyond that,
I'll retweet the actual Understanding Our Differences program, the nationwide Twitter feed. I'll retweet what they write so that people realize, where we originated. We've also gone to PTO meetings to get the word out. We went to when the school committee meeting was held at the senior center, we went there and let them know. And we do plan to go back to the senior center to talk some more about it. Basically, if someone reaches out and wants to hear more, we are more than happy to share it.
I am part of the Municipal Community Service Department, which under the tutelage of DKC, it includes the Senior Center, the Youth Center, the Library, Human Services, Veteran Services, and Deanna Cruz, our Community Services professional. So I'll obviously bring that up to our group and see if they can plug it. And definitely send me the link so we can make sure you're on our website, so people can, if they go to the youth center. They can at least find out a little bit more about this program too.
Yeah.
So as we kind of start to wrap up the podcast, I'd like to give our guests an opportunity to kind of give their final word. And it can be anything in terms of the program or your feelings about it. And just one more plug to the people about understanding our differences.
Well, I mean, we're very grateful to the school department, to Dr. Gilligan, to everyone for their support of the program. We've had unbelievable support for understanding our differences, and we're really excited to go forward, and we're hoping to get many more parent volunteers and others who would be able to volunteer with us to experience the program. We think it's a wonderful experience, both for the adults and the children who experience it. It's been wonderful to come today to work with you, and we're just so grateful for everyone who has supported us over the last 4 years. It's been amazing to watch this program grow. It really has been, to go from literally nothing to 30 programs so quickly. We're so grateful for all of the support of the community, the children, everyone. It's been amazing. We really haven't had any negative feedback at all. So it's just thanks to the community. I mean, it's been amazing. It's just been amazing.
Final word from you, Heidi?
I'd say the most rewarding part of it is seeing the kids raise their hands and they have this look on their face like they're about to say something that's just huge to them, and they'll say, I have allergies. Or they'll look at each other and say, oh, I didn't know you had a learning disability. We've had kids say that to each other. So it really connects the kids with each other too, which it almost gives you chills when you watch that. You see all of a sudden they realize, wow, I've known you for so many years and I had no idea that you knew this about you. And one of the things we teach is, different things about ourselves. And what if that person knew just that one thing about you and they missed out on all these other great things about you? And, so it's like we teach them, like, don't ever judge someone on just one piece of knowledge that you have about them. And they really take that. They take it to heart. They take it home. And we have their full attention. We have the volunteers' full attention, and I mean, people have shed tears listening to some of these high school students tell their stories. And it just there's just no better thing when it's hard to call this a job because it really it's just such a wonderful experience for us.
Sure.
We love it.
And I'm just unbelievably impressed. I'm a big supporter of you guys now, so anything we can do here at the Youth Center to continue to help in this, we're always looking to be an all-inclusive facility. One of our best programs during the winter is our Crusaders program, which matches up a lot of our high school and middle school kids with kids of a variety of different disabilities, and it's been very successful.
We have a tent with NAPAC at the Special Olympics every year.
Nice.
So we'll be there again this year.
Yeah, May 21st. We're definitely plugging the Special Olympics.
In Andover.
Absolutely.
And we also talk about Best Buddies.
Yep.
At one of our
which
programs.
Is awesome.
Yeah.
Which is a great program. So.
Wonderful.
We've got some great stuff here.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on the podcast. I wish you continued success in the program. And once again, anything we can do to help, feel free to reach out to us at all times.
Thank you.
That wraps up this podcast. I want to let our listeners know that I want to, again, thank you for all the great feedback we're getting and the suggestions to have different groups on our podcast. And we'll continue to do one a week and sometimes twice a week. Next Friday, we're going to have the amazing Demi Tetrold, our assistant director here. And she's going to be in to talk about our big summer of 2019. Every parent wants to know what we're going to be offering the following week for summer programs. And Demi is going to be able to lay it all out to you to answer all of your questions. Our programs go on sale April 8th. We are booked with the podcast through the end of April now, so we got some great people coming up, and I hope you continue to support the Youth-Centered podcast. And as we finish every podcast, we always say, too much passion is not enough passion.